Hi, I'm Michelle Shingler, the editor-in-chief of Foreword Reviews, and you're tuning in to Petit Foreword, our bite-sized interviews with indie authors. Today we're speaking with best-selling author and Pushcart Prize winner Bonnie Jo Campbell, whose latest novel, The Waters, released on January 9th. It's one of the most anticipated books of the year, a Michigan-set wonder about generations of captivating women who challenge and bind their community together with a magic that's all their own. Bonnie, thank you for taking the time to speak with us.
Oh, thank you for interviewing me, and thank you for all the good work that Foreword does.
Oh, thank you. So you're a Michigander just like us, and Herself's Wondrous Island is set in Michigan's wetlands. For those who are enchanted by it, can you say whether it's a real place or a conjured place?
Well, it's both. There's no place called the Massasauga Swamp, though there should be, because in Michigan we love our Massasauga rattlesnake. We are the only state where that snake is not almost extinct. So it's I'm super proud about that. I love the Massasauga, but the swamp itself is made up of, even though landscape is absolutely critical in this book. And this landscape is inspired by two places. One is the house I grew up in Comstock, Michigan, outside Kalamazoo, where all my life I said I grew up on a stream. And then as I was writing this book, I took a good look at it and I said, heck, I grew up on a swamp and with a stream running through it. And so that was my youth. And I spent a lot of time in the water and picking bloodsuckers off myself when I went in the mud. And then the other thing is my grandparents actually had, and it's still in the family, tiny private island, so small that all you had to walk across the walking bridge to get there. And they spent all their weekends there and a lot of time when they retired. And so it was a magical thing as a kid to actually have your own private island.
Yeah, that's
And
amazing.
that's in the St. Joe River.
So the women in Herself's family are all healers. She heals physical ailments. Rose Thorn heals endemic self-loathing. What is Donkey destined to heal?
Well, there's no telling since she's a precocious 11-year-old. And when you're that age, you can do anything possibly. Um, she, if she has a superpower, I like to give my young heroines superpowers. And that superpower would be that she's very logical. She's very logical. And at some point she says she wants to be a mathematical healer. That's her idea of healing. And she's learning the ways of healing of her grandmother, especially. She's literally learning to make the medicines. And she's also watching the other women very carefully. I mean, her Aunt Molly is a nurse, and her Aunt Primrose is somebody who saves lives as a lawyer can do. And so she's really observing, and it'll be interesting. But I would say it looks like possibly a healing ability that she has is that when she is in the middle of chaos and in a chaotic world and also a hostile world, she is going to be able to stay rational and logical, and she will maybe be able to negotiate the craziness in a way that could be very healing for a community.
Part of the natural medicine that Herself practices relates to reproductive choice. And in the time that you spent writing the novel, there have been major upheavals in that arena here in the US. How did these impact you as you told the Zook women's tale?
Oh, Lordy, what a mess. I mean,
Yeah.
what a mess. We have triumphs and disasters.
Mhm.
Um, Good things are happening in the state of Michigan. We and several other states, we have reproductive rights written right into our Constitution, which is really, seems really empowering to women. But I don't know how much the actual legal things affected me. What affected me was the feeling in the air that's been here for a while. And as it ramps up and as it cycles around, that this minority of people are having a very large influence on the legal system in certain states. And, the feeling of that rising up maybe did give me some urgency in what I was writing about. Like it definitely continued to feel important as I was embarking on this project. But, it's such an important thing that any in-depth story about women's lives and women's healing has to cover these issues.
Yeah. And your book has a very healing effect in that way too. Um,
Thank
so
you.
Whiteheart, oh, of course, Whiteheart has a very complicated relationship with the Zook women. But what about its people and community do you hope readers recognize in themselves?
Yeah, I mean, maybe one of the, there's this complicated relationship that these women, traditionally, this family of women, have provided healing for the community, but they have stayed aloof from the community to some degree. And it's true that Hermine and the woman who raised her, Baba Rose, are respected and revered and also feared in the community. And they so that when things change in society, such as maybe the church is a little bit more evangelical in the community and a little bit more rule bound, that and also this is a community that's having economic problems and economic changes, and so people are looking for a scapegoat, so that the island women, who are kind of mysterious and are different, they are the natural scapegoats for anything that's going wrong, even as far as people being ill. Somehow it's, the role that I guess witches have always played in history. And I think what I hope people see, and what's happening in the community, is that, this is called in psychology projection, that people are very willing they're very scared to look in themselves for the trouble. So they locate the trouble out in the world. And so they're locating the trouble in these women rather than searching their own souls. And that's always a good lesson for all of us. Anytime we're vilifying someone, I mean, all of us can do that, but I think there is a particular problem now in American communities of, a political divide in which people on either side are being vilified. And in this community, the women are going to pay the price for that.
Yes. So family is also very complicated in your book. It's a wide concept. It's not strictly biological. Who of your characters do you think has the best perspective on what family entails, and what does that look like?
Yeah, well, I think everybody in this story, the men and women and people in the community, they hold family very dearly, and they really are working at all times for the best for their family. It's kind of profound to the degree to which they are doing that. And I would say that all the women of the family know that the family is the place you come home to. I mean, family is like home. It's the place you can always go. It's the group of people who will take you in. And I think the women of the island, even though, there's only one point at which the women of the island are all together, but when they're not there, they're missed. And it's noticed, there's a kitchen table and everybody has a chair, and we're very aware of who is there and who is not.
So often when I was reading your book, I found myself wanting to spend time with these women. So this is just a fantasy dinner party question. If you could bring one of your characters into existence for a night, who would it be, and what would you do or discuss with them?
It's funny. I want so much to sit down with all of them, like at
Yeah.
the dinner, but it's also that each one of them, I guess I want, the three women of the family, the matriarch, and Rose Thorne, the mother, and Donkey, Dorothy, the daughter. I want to speak to each of them individually. And I keep thinking about, but I think maybe in this moment, I would like to speak to Hermine, because I don't know if she's long for this world, and she's got a lot of wisdom, and she's very cranky. And that's a kind of woman we need to hear more from, someone who's really seen tough times.
Yeah, I completely agree. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. To our audience, if you haven't picked it up already, be sure to go pick up a copy of this classic in the making. It's such a beautiful book. Thank you so much, Bonnie.
Oh, thank you so much, Michelle.